Okay, so last weekend I flew from Dubai to Miami, which was a 16-hour flight, and suffered 10 hours of time difference jet lag to go to a 2-day event from Jeremy Haynes. Now, for context, I'm in Jeremy Haynes' group. I paid around $60,000 to attend this mastermind and get inside of the group, all because I wanted to get around people that were levels ahead of me. My ultimate goal right now, which I've got written everywhere if you see my video of me documenting this and reverse engineering the numbers for me to get there, my goal in my business, or my business is, I have an agency, I have a consulting business helping agencies, is to get to $1 million a month. We're about 40% of the way there, 35 to 40%. And I know that in order to get there, there's no better way to do so than paying people that have already done it. So in that group, there is people that are already doing millions and millions of dollars a month. And they've pretty much already helped me cut down the learning curve tremendously in understanding exactly what are the biggest levers that I need to pull to get there. By the way, excuse if you can hear the background noise. I'm walking right now. I'm getting calories in. I thought I'd be efficient while recording a video and simultaneously getting calories in. Nonetheless, I went to this event. It was a 48-hour trip, and then I immediately came back to Dubai. But it was worth the jet lag. I learned so fucking much from this event. And I want to share with you the biggest things that I learned on immediate action items that I'm taking, so more practical things to increase opt-in rate, increase throughput on our funnel, all those small things. But the biggest things are going to be the things that I learned overall. The first one being, put your balls on the table and take bigger bets. So Jeremy Haynes, whose mastermind it actually was, his first talk, he showed this graph, which is called the burdens of proof, which he created. And it basically explained that the more money that you make, the bigger risks and the bigger bets that you have to take. And I noticed it with myself. As I made more and more money, I almost felt like I got fear of success to the point where, or fear of losing my success, to the point where I would set this minimum baseline in my mind of like, I need to have a minimum of X amount in the bank. So for example, I would say, okay, I need to have a minimum of 100K in the bank. And then I hit that. And then I would say, okay, I need to be tight as hell until I have a minimum of $1 million in the bank. And it's just continued for the last, specifically the last year or two. And what I realized is, as a result of that, I had this new baseline that I created in my mind of like, okay, I can spend money on coaching, consulting, ads, whatever it may be. But if I fall below this made up baseline, which realistically, even if I had $100 in the bank, I would be fine because I have no debt, I have nothing I have to pay off, I can move back home and I will be completely fine. So in reality, I can get all of my money, throw it down the drain tomorrow, and worst case scenario, I can rebuild it back. But the brain is very powerful in a way where it starts creating reasons why you need this certain baseline in the bank account. And I came to the conclusion that it was absolute bullshit. Now, in terms of how this ties in, Jeremy got us to do this training when we were there, and he said, I want you to screenshot this or draw this burdens of proof. And basically what this showed is the spectrum of certainty. And he correlated this with the fact that the people that achieve high levels of success are usually the people that are able to execute on an idea before they are operating at a high level of certainty. Makes sense, right? If you think about even Bitcoin in the early days, this is the analogy that he gave. People that invested in Bitcoin 5, 10, however many years ago, are making a shit ton of money from that now as a result of taking an educated guess, a big bet that had a big payoff. Why did it have a big payoff? Because 5 years ago, 10 years ago, when people invested in Bitcoin, where were they on the spectrum of certainty? They knew very, very little and they took action anyway. And what this made me realize is I'm not taking enough bets with a low level of certainty. This doesn't mean that you should be financially irresponsible and throw all your fucking money down the drain tomorrow. But what it made me realize is I need to take more bets with a lower level of certainty. For example, all of my money I have preserved in a bank, a high interest savings account. Why? Because I do not have a high level of certainty of knowing where do I put this money. So I've held off from investing in crypto, even in putting it in the S&P 500. I haven't done it for the reason that my spectrum, like me on the spectrum of certainty, is kind of like just below the pocket here. When what I need to be doing is I need to be focusing on taking action, ideally in the pocket. Right now I'm around here. So many people are already doing it. I'm just copying what already works, which in a sense should give you some level of liberation if you're below me in business terms financially, to know that you don't need to recreate a rocket ship to get up to like 200, 300, 400K a month. Nor do you have to get up to like $1 million, $2 million a month. But nonetheless, the bigger the bets you take, usually the more money you're willing to make. It's kind of like when you go into a casino, you're just taking educated bets. You know, the financially irresponsible, addicted gambler going to throw all their money away. But the person who has a plan is willing and open to take educated bets and guesses based on what they think is most probable to give them a high return or a high payoff. We do the same thing in business. When you launch an ad campaign, that is a bet. When you invest in hiring a new team member, that is a bet that you are willing to take. Now, depending on where you're at on that level of certainty, the point being is I realized that a lot of the bets that I were taking were bets that I already had like an 80 to 90% probability of winning. And as a result of that, the return might have been marginally beneficial, but in order to get crazy outsized returns, oftentimes you have to do things before people have already proved it, have already validated it. Kind of like running Facebook ads for local businesses 10 years ago, when nobody really knew what lead gen was, call centers. It's kind of like building a call center in your marketing agency before it was even a thing, as an example, okay? So I started asking myself some questions at the event around this, and I asked, what inhibited me from taking more bets? And I came to the conclusion that it was fear of losing what I've built and feeling the need to stack cash, which ultimately is counterproductive towards my goals on multiplying my income anyway. For example, I need to take bigger bets. I'll give you an example. So I realized, okay, I've only historically ran a call funnel, and I made the decision recently to launch a low-ticket offer funnel, which is performing very well. We're at about break-even on the front end. We're working on cracking the back end and getting more people to book and upsell, etc., etc. But I've never really ran a webinar, a story funnel. I haven't tested any new offers on ads, even though I know that we should be. So I realized and came out of that mastermind with the realization that I need to take more bets. I need to be okay with going, you know what? I'm going to take this 10, 20, 30K, that even if I lose it, I'll be completely fine. To take an educated bet at a lower level of certainty than I'm usually comfortable doing, because I know that as a result of that, I will collect more data and the payoff can be way bigger as a result of not everybody doing it. And usually the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. And that was something that I already knew, but the funny thing is about when you invest in consulting, go to masterminds, a lot of the time you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. An example of that I'll give is I hosted a mastermind in August. There was a guy there called Callum. He's in my program, License and Scale. And he got shouted at for having a fucking Gucci hat, but not being at 100K a month. He was, I think, around 50 to 60K. He texted me, and we had a case study on my YouTube channel, actually, last month. As a result of that, in the span of 3 weeks after that mastermind, that month, he hit 100K a month. Prime example of, you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught a lot of the time. So, key takeaway here is stop thinking too much, just take action. And this also applies for me, where I want to launch a story sequence funnel. I've never done that before. However, I know people that I can pay 5, 10, 15K to do so, and I've inevitably been delaying it as a result of being like, oh, you know, I don't want to spend that amount of money, I don't really think it makes sense. But why not? Like, what's the worst case scenario? I learn some new things, I get at least one client from it. One fucking client from it, and it pays itself dividends immediately. So it's worth it, you know? Anyway, moving on to step number 2, or lesson number 2. Stop tolerating C players on your team. Prime example of you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. Now, Jeremy broke this down. I think he learned it from somebody else. I mean, every analogy and every lesson that you learn a lot of the times is usually passed on from generation to generation to generation and just changed and tweaked relevant to the person. But he broke down teams into 3 core buckets, which I really like this analogy. Now, you've got the stallions. The stallions are the people that if you get in their way, you're going to end up hurting yourself. You bring these people in, they're off to the races. They're going to get shit done regardless. They don't need motivating. They don't need one-on-one calls. They just need to know, where are we going? I'll head there. Now, then you've got camels. The difference between stallions and camels are fucking slow. And have you ever seen a camel without having somebody lead the camel or whip the camel? It doesn't do anything. It won't move in the right direction. It won't know where to go. So, although camels, when guided, are incredibly consistent, they can walk through the desert for days on end without water. They're incredibly consistent and incredibly reliable. If they don't have a strong leader to pave the path and give them a whip round the arse every now and again to make sure they're moving in the right direction, they're not going to get anything done. And you need both of those. You need the stallions, the people that have complete autonomy in knowing where they want to go, knowing that fits into the company vision, and just riding the wave and taking the action. The camels, you need those too. You need the reliable, consistent people that you need to whip around the back of the arse every now and again and have a one-to-one with and coddle them every now and again. Then you've got the donkeys. Now, the donkeys are the people that are just fucking retarded in the nicest way of saying that, which there isn't really a nice way of saying that. Think about a donkey. They don't really do anything that benefits society. If you ever try and lead a donkey anywhere, it's not going to go where you want it to go. And usually when a donkey is killed, nobody cares because They don't really contribute anything to society. So the point being is the donkeys, the people that do nothing, barely collaborate, and if anything, pull the team down because the team is trying to push the donkeys up the hill. And as a result of that, the stallions and the camels are exerting unnecessary energy to bring the C's and the D players, the donkeys on your team, up that hill. And they make so many mistakes. And if they were dead, nobody would care or nobody would notice anyway because they contribute nothing. Point being is kill the donkeys. Remove the fucking donkeys from the team. So what we decided to do is, I do this frequently, but I decided to do it again. You need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. I decided to do a team audit and realize that we have a handful of donkeys that need cutting that I've been tolerating way too long. I think everybody here who has a team can resonate where sometimes you have team members that are C's and D players and you're just like, they'll do for now. But as a result of that, it just gets worse and worse and worse. And the problem with having donkeys on your team is if you're not careful, those donkeys set the new standard. And when that happens, the stallions and the camels can transform into donkeys as a result of the donkeys pulling them down. They can make them even more retarded, okay? So if you're wondering how I did this, I did it like this. So I had the skill and will chart. If you're not familiar with that, you can Google it. And I would just put everybody in the team in these boxes from high skill, low will, high skill, high will, low skill, low skill, high will. So I know what we need to do with all the people in these individual boxes. So for example, the high skill, high will people, they thrive on freedom. We want to make sure that we can keep them and give them more autonomy. High skill, low will, we need to understand why. Give them a driving force because we need to increase their will. They have what it takes, they just don't want to do what it takes. And we've got to understand why. And they're the hardest people to deal with because the high-skilled people, they know what to do, they're just not willing and open to do it. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force it to drink. Low skill and low will are people that are obvious fires. And then low skill, high will, again, these is another really hard bucket to deal with because they have high will, they're probably great for the culture, they're just not skilled enough. Now, you either train them up or you get them out. They're the only two routes that you can go. You train them up to develop their skill, which the good thing is I'd rather have somebody with high will and low skill because skill is usually trainable. But they can naturally, which we've had this in the past with our team, we've had to let people go and make difficult decisions. They just can't develop the skill. So don't get caught up on the people that you try and develop that are just taking too long. Remember that it's better to take an 8 out of 10 into a 10 out of 10 than a 1 out of 10 into a 10 out of 10. The gap is too big. It's not worth the unnecessary time, energy, and effort it's going to take to bring a 1 to a 10. It's worth just bringing somebody else in who's a 7 or an 8 that you can develop into a 9 or a 10. Number 3. There wasn't really any specific talks on this, but this is something that I realized. Actually, tell a lie, there was. There was a guy there in fitness. I won't mention his name just because I don't want to step on anyone's toes or anything like that, but don't sleep on back-end offers. So we're not focusing on piffing on Ascensions as much as we should be. So for context, obviously have an agency. We have a 7K front-end offer. We have a 14K back-end offer. And then in my coaching program, we have a 4K front-end, 18K back-end. And I realized that we're not focusing on the back-end as much as we should be. We just try and get people on renewals or, we'll get to the end of the program when they're due for offboarding. And we'll just kind of kick the can down the road and we'll leave it until the very last day. And we'll go, hey, you're due for offboarding. Do you want to renew? Yes or no? Okay, no, see you later. Again, you need to be reminded more than you need to be taught. I knew this, that our client success team is our second sales team, but we have not paid as much attention to this as we should have. And we do not have the level of SOPs and structure that we need to build out our upsell and renewal systems. So we need, 10, 20, 30 different upsell and renewal calls that I can give to our client success team and our sales team, depending on who we decide to take those, so they know exactly what to do. And the good thing is we started developing this the minute I left the Mastermind, and we got one back-end Ascension who renewed for a full year in our agency last week, so that's huge. Number 4, people making more money than you don't necessarily know a ton more. They may just have a better market, a better offer, and better positioning. I realize a lot of the time, now don't get me wrong, there was some incredibly intelligent people at this Mastermind. I'm just talking in general. Observing after, going to 10, 20 different in-person Masterminds now over the last 2 or 3 years. One thing I realize again and again and again is one thing that's great about going to these Masterminds is you realize that the people that are doing these big numbers that you think are almost impossible at certain times are just normal people. They're cut from the same cloth. They're normal equally as to you are. They're also human. There isn't anything crazily special about them. They don't have fucking wings or a cyborg brain. And although that's common sense, sometimes just seeing those people that you put on a pedestal in person can help put it into perspective. And I know this to be incredibly true for me. When I went to my first mastermind, I put a lot of people on a pedestal, and then you meet them in person. And some people, to be frank with you, you will meet and you'll be like, oh, I thought this person was incredibly impressive and they were like this messiah, and actually they're actually not that smart. And that's very liberating for you as an entrepreneur if somebody that you don't believe is that intelligent or that further away from you in terms of skill set and knowledge and experience and hard work and all of those things kind of closes the gap between where you are and where you want to be. And it makes that a lot easier to achieve and obtain. So that's the first thing. But on the more practical side, the money is in the market size. The biggest markets have the biggest earning potential. 2 people there got a $5 million a month award. There was somebody on a weight loss offer for women and another guy doing $5 million a month selling corporate professionals on how to use AI. And every time I see these people and I connect with them that are doing multi-million dollars a month, they're always in a huge market. A market that is scalable, not a market with 5,000 people in it, 10,000, 20,000 people in it. There's one of two ways that people get up to $1 million a month. They're either going very, very volume heavy, they have crazy finance plans, and the TAM is huge. Like people that want to make money online, weight loss, crypto, whatever it may be. A market that is so fucking big that you have so much room to scale. And you can push thousands of units a month without burning out or exhausting the market, even in the slightest. Like making money online, or corporate professionals who want to make money online and escape their corporate job. Millions of them, as an example. Women who want to lose weight. Probably billions of them, as an example. The money is in the market size. Biggest markets have the biggest earning potential. Now, the other bucket of people there go extremely high ticket and are extremely niche. So there was another guy there who was a tax specialist. And, he was selling a program that was about 50K. And if we do the math on that, he only needs to sell 20 units of that a month to get to $1 million a month. As opposed to, say, somebody who was selling a 5K offer, they would need to sell like 200 units a month to get to $1 million a month in new cash. So point being, you've got 2 different buckets or 2 different routes that you can go down. Or you can do a hybrid of both. This is what I'm currently working on developing, where we have a front-end offer, do it yourself, done with you, and then a done for you. 4K, 18K, and then potentially a 30K. So we can have offers that resonate with all different subsets of the market. Now, final things I want to run you through here are the practical implementation. So a couple of things that we're immediately implementing, which, again, some of them I already knew, some of them I didn't, but it will be helpful for you. Move all of your funnels to Typeform and Calendly. Don't use Go high-level forms. You'll find the opt-in rate is higher. You'll also find the booking rate is higher. Don't ask why. Very simple. The UI just looks better, and it's way more smooth from an integration perspective as well. Another one, we've been struggling scaling our sales team, not because we didn't have enough bookings, but as a result of just not having enough closers, good closers. So one thing I tested and I learned at the Mastermind, and it's been working well, is when you're hiring closers, run story ads from your Instagram, just showing a closer or a setter's calendar, show a commission sheet if they're making 10, 20, 30K in a month. Best way of getting closers. You do that, and then another thing is before their interview, send them an example sales call, tell them we're going to do a role play on the call, and give them no context, and just see how they go on the call. Those 2 things have helped us tremendously in ramping up closer volume. Number 3, when the closer books in the call, because our front-end program is 4 months now, we're having the closer on the sales call after they close someone, booking a call 2 to 3 months in, which is going to be a check-in call. That's how we frame it, but it's actually an ascension call. So we're going to ascend the prospect onto our back-end program. 2 different scenarios here. We're either going to renew them on the initial offer, or we're going to ascend them on the higher ticket offer, and we're going to apply what they paid to this one. So it's a no-brainer. Another one, align the landing page with ads getting the most spend in your ad campaigns. If you didn't know, chances are you probably do if you're running ads on Meta. There was a new update called the Andromeda update, which basically means Meta are looking for more creative diversification in your ads. And as a result of that, you might have now, as opposed to before, where you would have a bunch of campaigns, bunch of ad sets, different targeting. What we're finding work best for us now is CBO, 20, 30, 40 ads in one campaign, broad, because your targeting is in your messaging now. Now, when you do that, as a result of everything being just thrown in one campaign, Meta will optimize around, a handful of creatives, 2, 3, 4, 5 different creatives that are going to get majority of the spend. And the ones that get majority of the spend, you should align the landing page with the ads getting the most spend. So those 5 ads, see if you can throw them into Manus or ChatGPT and say, hey, can you update my landing page copy. Here's my landing page. Make it congruent with these ads. Because lack of congruency kills conversions. This helped increase our opt-in rate by about 4% a month. Over the last, well, to be clear, not a month. We only did this about 5 days ago. But since that point, our opt-in rate has gone up around 4 or 5%. This ties into the back-end pipeline, but have a back-end pipeline for ascending people, so close clients, and make an SOP on this for sales reps, which I've already developed. So now what we're going to do moving forward is when somebody comes in on our lower ticket offer, we're going to have the closer reach out 2 weeks in to remind them that if they wish to do so, they can apply the amount that they paid as credit towards the high ticket. So I'm doing this in both businesses. Haven't really tested it yet, don't have enough data, but I don't really see any net downside. So let's say we get like an agency client in who's on a done with you model where we don't call their leads or where we just give them a course and the coaching, and we text them 2 weeks in and going, hey John, how are you getting on? And they're like, yeah, you know, it's a shit show, I need some help. It's like, I just wanted to remind you, man, as a result of you coming in 2 weeks ago, we have a special offer running. You can actually apply everything that you put towards this program into the Done For You program. Is that something you'd be open to exploring options around? And then we get on a call and we resell them. Or we can just do it via text. A couple of final things. Have all setters in the dialer once you get past 5 or 10 leads a day, which we did, we noticed that Slack, when you get multiple setters as well, is incredibly inefficient. So the way that our setters were working is we have Slack channels for like new leads, text, follow-up, call confirmations. Setters would see it, they'd react with an emoji, they'd go in, they'd call. There was a sales management and automation guy there who was an absolute wizard. His name is Josh Troy. And he mentioned that non-negotiable, you need him in a dialer. So we've just immediately moved everyone over to Hot Prospector. And the amount of efficiency that our setters have achieved as a result of making that change is tremendous. They went from doing anywhere from an average of $100 to $150 a day up to like $400 to $500 a day. And then the final thing that we're implementing right now is hiring a cleaner role for the sales team. At the Mastermind, a lot of people were talking about a cleaner role. Now, we have faced this problem at scale when we're getting 5, 10, 15, 20 leads a day, more than that now, to be frank with you, where we have to do pipeline audits, we need to organize the leads, and we send out forms after every intro call, demo call to the setters and closers saying, did they show, did they no-show, why did they no-show, what was the quality of the lead, and if they're more than a 7, we send that back to the pixel, so that's like quantitative pixel conditioning based on what the setters and the closers say. But the problem was, the forms would be missed when the closers and setters were busy, the leads would get messy, the pipeline would turn into a shit show, automations would break and nobody would pick up on it, and as a result of that, we would burn through leads. So a cleaner role solves that problem. It's a VA who just sits in the pipeline all day and fixes everything. So that's pretty much all the lessons and key takeaways that I got that I'm executing on to get from 400, 350 to 400K a month up to $1 million a month that I learned as a result of attending this mastermind by Jeremy Haynes. Hope this is valuable. Ciao.